1. We're checking out this fascinating 1978 Ford Bronco that's popped up on Craigslist for $9,500. Let me tell you, this is one of those honest, working trucks with a real story to tell. Under the hood, we've got a beefy 390 V8 that's recently gotten some serious love. We're talking a fresh reseal, new headwork, and a valve job, all with less than 500 miles on the clock. The owner says it runs great, and I believe it. These 390S are known to be absolute workhorses when properly maintained. Now let's keep it real here. This isn't your pristine showroom Bronco. It's a genuine Wyoming work truck with some battle scars to prove it. There's Bondo in the corners and some dents that tell stories of its hard-working past. But here's the golden nugget: no rust holes. That's huge for a vehicle of this age. The truck rocks a raven black paint job with white accents from about 35 years ago, and the hood just got a fresh coat that's apparently mirror finish. It's sporting some cool factory twin shocks up front, and that 4-speed manual transmission just adds to the classic appeal. At 122,195 miles, with a rollover, this Bronco's seen its share of roads, but it starts reliably every time and handles well according to the seller. Plus, you're getting new front fenders from LMC Truck Parts still in their boxes. That's a nice bonus. For $9,500, you're looking at a solid, running piece of American automotive history. Sure, it's got its imperfections, but that's part of its character. This isn't a garage queen. It's a genuine working Bronco that's ready for its next chapter. 2. We're looking at something really special. A 1965 Chevrolet CK10 series that's currently listed for $29,900. Let me tell you, this isn't your average vintage pickup. First things first, that stunning red exterior paired with a tan interior is an absolutely classic combination that just screams 1960s Americana. The seller's listing shows a truck that appears to be in remarkable condition, and here's where things get interesting. The odometer shows just 5,924 miles. Now, given this is a 58-year-old truck, we should probably take those numbers with a grain of salt. It's likely either been reset or rolled over, which is pretty common for vehicles of this age. What we're looking at here is a regular cab C10, equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it a more comfortable daily driver than its manual counterparts. The C10S from this era are absolutely legendary for their durability and classic styling, featuring those iconic clean body lines and that unmistakable front grille design that Chevy nailed in '65. At $29,900, we're definitely in the territory of a well-restored example. While the listing is somewhat light on mechanical details, we don't know which engine it's running or what work has been done, the asking price suggests this truck has likely seen significant restoration work. 3. We're checking out this 1968 Chevy C10 that's popped up on Craigslist for $13,500. And let me tell you straight up, this is a genuine, unrestored piece of American truck history. Let's keep it real here. This isn't a show truck, and the seller is refreshingly honest about that. We're looking at an original V8 short bed fleet side with some battle scars to prove its authenticity. The truck's got rust in the rockers and door pillars, which is pretty common for these old workhorses, especially if they've spent time in areas where road salt is used. What's really cool here is that it's still rocking its original drivetrain, including that classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's getting harder to find these days. The odometer shows 80,000 miles, and while that might be original given the truck's condition, always take vintage odometer readings with a grain of salt. The only non-original part mentioned is the seats, which honestly isn't a bad thing. Original seats from '68 would likely be pretty worn out by now anyway. The seller's got a clean title in hand, which is always good news. For $13,500, you're looking at a solid driver-quality C10 that needs some TLC in the rust department, but still runs and drives. These 67, 72 C10S are becoming increasingly popular, and prices have been climbing. This one's priced pretty fairly for what it is, an original unrestored truck that could either be preserved as a cool patina ride or serve as a good foundation for a restoration project. 4. We're checking out a 1980 Ford Bronco that's up for grabs at $8,700. And let me tell you, This is one of those honest, original survivors that's getting harder to find these days. Let's keep it real here. This Bronco is what I'd call a solid diamond in the rough. It's powered by the reliable 302 V8 engine, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, which is a fantastic combo for these rigs. The seller's being straight up about its condition. It's drivable, but needs some attention in a few areas. Here's what we're dealing with mechanically. The carburetor likely needs a rebuild. The brakes are soft, probably needs a good brake system overhaul. And the steering's got some play in it. These are all pretty typical issues for a 43-year-old SUV. And honestly, they're all fixable without breaking the bank. The good news? The body's surprisingly clean for its age, with the seller noting very little surface rust. That's huge for these old Broncos, which were notorious for rust issues. With 130,000 miles on the clock and a clean title, this appears to be a genuine survivor that's managed to avoid major rust or accident damage. At $8,700, you're looking at a solid project vehicle that you can actually drive while you restore it. It's not a basket case that needs a complete overhaul, but rather a good foundation for either a full restoration or just mechanical refreshing to make it a reliable driver. 5. We're looking at something pretty special. A 1970 Ford F350 Crew Cab Dually that's currently listed for $20,900. Let me tell you why this truck is particularly interesting. First off, Crew Cab Duallys from this era are incredibly rare finds, especially in this kind of condition. This is a two-wheel drive model powered by the mighty 460 big block V8, paired with an automatic transmission, a powertrain combination that's known for being virtually bulletproof. What's really impressive here is the condition the seller's describing. For a 53-year-old work truck, the key areas that usually rot out are reportedly solid. We're talking about good cab mounts, clean floors, and solid rockers. That's like hitting the trifecta in vintage truck preservation. The seller mentions very little rust, which is remarkable for a vehicle of this age and type. The truck comes equipped with power steering and power brakes, which are said to work well, making it much more manageable to drive than its non-powered counterparts. The seller states it runs and drives great, which suggests this isn't just a pretty face, it's a functional classic. At $20,900, down from $22,000, we're looking at serious collector territory here. But consider this, these Crew Cab Duallys are extremely hard to find, especially in solid condition. They were typically worked hard and put away wet, so finding one that survived this well is pretty remarkable. 6. Let me tell you about this absolutely gorgeous 1968 Ford F250 Highboy that just popped up on Craigslist. Man, when we talk about vintage trucks that still turn heads, this is exactly what we mean. At $25,000, we're looking at a seriously well-preserved piece of American trucking history. This beauty is rocking a 390 FE V8 with some tasteful upgrades that actually make it more reliable and enjoyable to drive. We're talking an Edelbrock Streetmaster intake and a Holley 670 CFM Street Avenger carb setup. The previous owners clearly knew what they were doing, keeping the modifications practical without going overboard. What's really impressive is that this truck has only seen 3 owners, all in the same family, and they've used it exactly how these trucks were meant to be used, hauling hay around the ranch and occasional camping trips. The odometer shows 113,540 miles, which is honestly nothing for these tanks when they're well maintained like this one. The features that really make this F250 special include that factory Jetstar Customatic AC, which is super rare for 68, Firestone airbag suspension, and those practical upgrades like LED headlights and an auxiliary fuel tank. Plus, it's got a clean Oregon title and comes with all the original paperwork and Ford shop manuals. That's gold for collectors. The blue paint looks clean, and importantly, there's no body damage or any creative modifications that often plague these old trucks. It's still running its original 4-speed manual transmission and 4WD setup, which is exactly what you want in a classic like this. 7. Let's talk about this 1982 Chevy K10 that just popped up on Craigslist for $8,500. This is one of those honest, working K10s that's got some character but still has plenty of life left in it. Under the hood, You've got the bulletproof 350 V8 paired with the legendary SM465 manual transmission. That's the combination you want in these trucks, folks. The current owner has clearly put some serious work into making this truck mechanically sound. We're looking at a long list of new parts, fresh brakes all around, including worn manual hubs, new bearings, water pump, power steering pump, radiator, and even a new windshield. Those Goodyear mud tires aren't cheap either. Now, let's be real here. It's not perfect. There's some rust issues we need to talk about. The left front fender has some rust through, and the tailgate's got some rust spots too. But here's the good news. The rockers, cab corners, and floor are solid, which is huge for these trucks. That's usually where they rot out first. At 61,000 miles, the mechanicals are looking good with strong oil pressure at 45, 50 psi. Almost all the gauges work, including that notoriously finicky clock, though the battery gauge is out. Both fuel tanks and the switch are operational, which is another plus. Here's what's sweet. It comes with a 2-inch rough country lift kit that hasn't been installed yet. That's a nice bonus in the deal. 8. We're looking at a 1973 GMC C104X4 that's listed for $29,800. And I've got to be straight with you. That's a pretty steep asking price for the limited information we have. Let's break this down. The seller's description is incredibly brief, which is honestly a bit concerning at this price point. What we know is that it's got a clean Texas title, new wheels, and they claim it's solid. It's showing 47,718 miles, rocks a V8, and has an automatic transmission. The black paint looks decent in what we can see. Now here's where I need to be real with you folks. $29,800 for a 73 C10, even a 4X4, needs a lot more justification than what we're seeing here. We don't know about any restoration work, the condition of the drivetrain, interior details, or even if that mileage is original. For reference, well-restored C10s from this era typically range from $15,000 to $35,000, but those listings usually come with extensive documentation and detailed descriptions. The seller states they're not in a rush to sell, which might explain the premium price. But as your trusted source for Craigslist finds, I'd strongly recommend getting a lot more information before considering this one. You'd want to see detailed photos of the undercarriage, engine bay, interior, and documentation of any restoration work at this price point. 9. Let's talk about this 1977 Chevy 4X4 that's popping up for $8,500. Now, this is what I'd call an honest seller's listing. They're laying it all out there, good and rough spots included. The highlight of this truck is definitely what's under the hood. A 383-stroker long block that was installed in 2020 by Cascade Motors in the Dalles. With only 2,000 miles on this fresh engine, it's barely broken in. The seller's straight up about it being loud and fun to drive. And isn't that exactly what you want in a classic 4X4? Now, let's keep it real. This isn't a show truck. The seller's upfront about rust issues and peeling paint, and the odometer's not working, pretty common for these old trucks. But hey, it's got some meaty 35-inch tires, the 4X4 system works with manual locking hubs, and it's got a clean Oregon title with current registration. At $8,500 firm, and yes, they'll take Bitcoin, you're basically paying for that fresh 383 engine and a solid 4X4 platform. This is the kind of truck that's perfect for someone who wants a classic rig they can actually use without worrying about keeping it pristine. It's got character, it's got power, and it's not trying to be something it's not. The price seems pretty fair considering that 383-stroker engine alone. These aren't cheap to build right. Just remember, you're buying a project truck that's ready to run, not a restored showpiece. 10. We're looking at something really special. A 1953 Ford F100 that's about as honest and original as they come. Listed at $23,950. And let me tell you why this one's worth your attention. First off, this is a California truck, which is huge because it means we're dealing with a dry, rust-free body. But what makes this F100 particularly special is its originality. We're talking about an unmolested dash, no cutouts for modern radios or gauges, all original sheet metal, and no accident history. That's increasingly rare to find these days. Under the hood, you've got the original inline 6 paired with a column shift 3-speed manual transmission. The previous owner did a restoration that included fresh paint, brakes, engine work, and transmission attention. The current owner's been using it for 6 years as a local runner. You've got to love a classic that's actually being driven. Here's what's really cool. It's still running on 6 volts, just like Henry Ford intended back in '53. You're getting a truck that delivers that authentic 1950s driving experience, which is becoming harder to find as most of these get converted to 12-volt systems and modernized. At $23,950, you're looking at what the seller rightfully calls a driver price. Similar trucks that have been restored to show quality are easily asking $40K plus. This one's in that sweet spot where it's nice enough to turn heads but not so precious that you'd be afraid to actually use it. 11. We're checking out something pretty special. A 1978 Chevy C10 stepside that's asking $9,975. And let me tell you why this one's worth talking about. This is a true time capsule, folks. We're looking at a one-owner truck that was sold new at Key Chevrolet in Cupertino, California. What makes this C10 really stand out is its originality. We're talking original paint, original 250 CI straight-six engine, and that classic 3-speed manual transmission. With 74,845 miles showing, this truck has clearly been well preserved. The red exterior paired with the tan interior is a classic combination. And being a California truck, you know it's probably avoided the rust issues that plague these trucks in other regions. Now here's what's really impressive. It just passed California smog, which isn't easy for a vehicle of this age. That tells us the straight six is running right. And if you know these 250 CI engines, you know they're basically bulletproof when maintained properly. At $9,975, you're getting a piece of preserved automotive history. One-owner trucks from this era are getting harder to find, especially ones that haven't been modified or upgraded. This is the kind of truck that tells its own story, from the stepside bed, which is becoming increasingly desirable, to its original paint. 12. We're checking out a 1976 El Camino that's got me pretty excited. Listed at $13,000, this beauty in blue is one of those finds that makes you remember why these car trucks became legends. Let's dive into what makes this one special. We're looking at a 305 V8. That's the 5.0 liter for you younger folks, paired with an automatic transmission. And according to the seller, this powertrain is running strong, with 99,220 miles on the clock. They're confident enough to say it's ready for distance driving, which is a bold statement for a 47-year-old vehicle. The condition is what really catches my eye here. The seller's enthusiasm isn't just hype. They're claiming excellent paint with no rust, which is huge for these old G-body platforms. The leather interior is reportedly in great shape too. And here's something important. All the electronics work. That means radio, blinkers, lights, horn, everything's functioning as it should, which is pretty rare for a vehicle of this vintage. Now at $12,995, we're in the middle range for El Caminos of this era. Clean examples have been climbing in value, and this one appears to be well preserved rather than heavily modified, which is exactly what collectors are looking for. 13. We're looking at a 1982 Chevy K10 that's listed for $2,800. And let me be completely honest with you. This is a project truck in the truest sense of the word. Let's break down what we're dealing with here. First off, this is a roller. No engine, no transmission. The seller had dreams of dropping in a 12-valve Cummins, which would have been an awesome build. But sometimes life has other plans. The truck's got a 4-inch lift kit already installed, which is a nice start for whatever power plant you're thinking about. Now let's talk about the good and the rough. The interior is reportedly in decent shape, which is rare for these trucks, and it's got power windows and locks, a nice luxury touch for '82. You're also getting new front and rear bumpers with the deal. But here's where we need to keep it real. There's rust through in one spot, and the tires are worn out. The odometer shows 150,000 miles, but it's rolled over, so actual mileage is unknown. The wheels are reportedly in good shape though. At $2,800, you're basically buying a blank canvas with a clean title. For someone looking to do a custom build, Whether it's that 12-valve Cummins the previous owner dreamed of or something else entirely, this could be a solid starting point. The price seems fair for what you're getting, especially with the lift kit already installed. 14. We're checking out a pretty interesting find. A 1979 Ford E250 Chateau Panel Supervan listed at $3,100. And this one's got some stories to tell. Let's get excited about what we've got here. This is a one-owner Chateau spec van, which means it's loaded with all the good stuff. AC, cruise control, power locks, tilt steering, swivel front seats, and even the trailer package. Under the hood, you've got the mighty 460 V8 paired with a bulletproof C6 automatic. That's the powertrain you want for pulling boats or whatever else you might have in mind. Now let's keep it real about the condition. The original owner started primering some spots where there were scratches and dents but never finished the job. The good news? No rust. That's huge for a van of this vintage. The interior's still got its original carpet, paneled walls, and full headliner, which is pretty remarkable for a 79. The van runs, drives, and stops, but the seller's honest about it needing some TLC. It's currently on non-op status, but comes with a clean title. The odometer shows 153,000 miles but has rolled over, so actual mileage is unknown. At $3,100, you're looking at a solid foundation for either a restoration project or a custom build. These Chateau vans were top of the line in their day, and finding one with no rust and all the luxury options is getting pretty rare. 15. We're looking at a 1984 Chevy Silverado 1500 listed at $12,500. And honestly, that price needs some serious justification that we're not getting in this ultra-brief description. What we know is that it's a long bed 4x4 with 99,000 original miles, and it's got current tags and a fresh smog certificate. The seller says it runs great, but at this price point, we really need more details about the condition, maintenance history, and any modifications or restoration work. For perspective, typical market values for 84 Silverados in good condition usually range from $5,000 to $15,000, depending on condition and modifications. At $12,500, this one's sitting near the higher end of that range, but without more information about its condition, options, or history, it's hard to say if that price is justified. The fact that it passed smog is a good sign that the engine's running right. But folks, we really need more information here. No mention of rust, interior condition, transmission health, or any recent work done. 16. We're checking out this interesting 1979 Dodge Power Wagon that's popped up on Craigslist for $10,000. Look, I've got to be straight with you. This one's definitely a project truck that needs some love. The seller is being upfront about its condition, and I appreciate that honesty. This classic Power Wagon comes with the robust V8 engine and automatic transmission. Plus, it's got that sweet 4x4 capability that these trucks are known for. It's wearing a blue paint job, though the condition isn't specified in detail. Now, here's the real talk. The truck currently starts but won't move, and it needs several repairs. A new windshield wiper, radiator, and transmission cooler lines. That's not a small list of issues, folks. The rebuilt title adds another layer to consider when evaluating the price. The seller seems motivated and is very open to negotiations, which honestly might be necessary given the truck's current state. These Power Wagons have a strong following, and when properly restored, they can be absolute beasts. But you'd need to factor in the repair costs and labor. For $10,000, you're really buying potential here, rather than a ready-to-roll truck. If you're mechanically inclined and looking for a classic Dodge Power Wagon project, this could be interesting, especially if you can negotiate the price down considering the work needed. Just make sure you go in with eyes wide open about what you're getting into. 17. We're looking at something really special. A 1970 Ford F100 that's listed for $12,500. And let me tell you, this one's got me excited. This isn't just any old F100. This is one of those rare finds that's been properly maintained and cherished. Let's dive into what makes this truck special. Under the hood, you've got the reliable 302 V8 paired with a heavy-duty 4-speed manual transmission with that classic granny first gear, perfect for both work and cruising. With 130,000 miles on the clock, it's been used but not abused. The 355 rear end and the dual exhaust setup with headers must make this thing sound just right. What really catches my attention is the overall condition. The seller states it's rust-free, which is huge for a truck of this age, and it's sporting fresh tires and a newly upholstered bench seat. The dealer-installed Sears and Roebuck AC has been recently converted, which is a nice modern touch while keeping the vintage feel. All the gauges, lights, and blinkers are working. That's surprisingly rare in classics of this era. This F100 is running with manual steering and manual brakes, keeping it true to its original character. The sliding rear window is a cool period feature, and they're even throwing in a new window seal kit. The white paint looks clean in the description, and being from Colorado until recently suggests it probably avoided the harsh rust issues that plague many of these trucks. 18. We've got a real treat for you. A 1982 GMC Sierra that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This silver short bed pickup is a true gem, and the seller is asking just $20,000 for it. Can you believe it? Now, let's dive into the details. This Sierra is powered by a 6.2-liter diesel engine, which is paired with an automatic transmission. It's got all the creature comforts you could want, like power steering, power brakes, air conditioning, heat, and even cruise control. And with just 139,000 miles on the odometer, this truck has plenty of life left in it. The seller claims that the Sierra is in excellent condition, and based on the photos, it's hard to argue with that assessment. The paint looks fresh and shiny, and the bed has been protected with a liner. It's also got dual tanks, which is a nice touch for those long hauls. But here's the really cool part. According to the seller, this particular Sierra is one of just 3,300 that were built in 1982. That makes it a pretty rare find, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Of course, as with any used vehicle, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection before making a purchase. But if this Sierra is as good as it looks, it could be a great addition to any car enthusiast's collection. So there you have it, folks. A 1982 GMC Sierra short bed, 4x4 with a diesel engine, low miles, and a rare pedigree. If you're in the market for a classic pickup that's sure to stand out from the crowd, this might just be the one for you. 19. We're taking a closer look at a 1979 Chevrolet Silverado that's up for sale on Craigslist. This green C10 pickup is a Scottsdale package, and it's got a price tag of just $3,500. But before you get too excited, let's dive into the details. First off, the seller is upfront about the condition of this truck. They've listed it as fair, which means it's going to need some work. The body in particular is going to need some attention. But hey, if you're looking for a project truck, this could be a great place to start. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 V8 engine that the seller says runs well. That's paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, which is a nice touch for those who like to row their own gears. The seller also notes that the clutch and transmission are in okay shape, so you shouldn't have to worry about those right away. One thing to keep in mind is that the odometer is broken, so it's hard to say exactly how many miles this truck has on it. The seller has listed it as 100,000 miles, but that could be a rough estimate. As for the rest of the truck, it's a heavy-duty model, which means it should be able to handle some tough jobs. The Scottsdale package also adds some nice touches, like a more comfortable interior and some extra chrome trim. Overall, this 1979 Chevrolet Silverado is a project truck that's going to need some love. But if you're willing to put in the work, it could be a great way to get into the classic truck hobby without breaking the bank. Just be sure to give it a thorough inspection before you hand over any cash. 20. We've got a real blast from the past, a 1972 Chevy K10 that's up for grabs on Craigslist. The seller is asking $14,500 for this classic pickup, and based on the description, it sounds like it could be a great buy. First off, let's talk about the condition of this truck. The seller doesn't explicitly state the overall condition, but based on the description, it sounds like it's in pretty good shape. They mention that it's all original, which is always a plus for collectors. They also say that it runs and drives great, and that they often drive it an hour to work. That's a good sign that this truck is roadworthy and reliable. Under the hood, you'll find an 8-cylinder engine, which is likely a 350 cubic inch V8. That's paired with a manual transmission, which is great news for those who like to have full control over their driving experience. The seller also mentions that the truck has a new exhaust system, brakes, tires, and front-end components, as well as a fresh tune-up. That's a lot of recent maintenance, which is always a good thing when you're buying a classic vehicle. As for the rest of the truck, the seller mentions that it has a good working radio, which is a nice touch. They also describe it as a cool old truck that you can just get in and go. That's the kind of simplicity and reliability that a lot of people look for in a classic pickup. Now, there are a couple of things to keep in mind with this truck. The seller lists the drive type as FWD, which is likely a typo since the K10 is a 4WD model. It's possible that this is just an error in the listing, but it's worth double-checking with the seller to make sure you know what you're getting.